The night ripped open with sirens and snarling dogs. Red and blue lights washed across a cracked parking lot, bouncing off broken glass and concrete. A black woman stumbled backward, her palms up, voice trembling. "I didn't do anything." The dogs lunged, foam spraying from their jaws, their chains clinking like weapons. The officers shouted over one another, boots thudding, hands gripping leashes so tight their knuckles went white. One bark turned into three, a chorus of violence waiting to be unleashed. She pressed against the wall, heart hammering, the smell of asphalt and gasoline thick in her throat. Then one officer gave a nod. Her name was Alicia Moore, 34, and most mornings started the same. She woke before sunrise in her small Atlanta apartment, made oatmeal with cinnamon, and sat by the window where the blinds never quite closed. On the sill sat a stack of books, case law, history, and a dog-eared notebook scribbled with dates. To anyone else, she was just another tenant hustling to pay bills, but neighbors always noticed her stillness. She carried herself differently, like someone always measuring the room. At work, Alicia typed reports in a cramped insurance office, the hum of printers masking the endless small slights. "You're very articulate," her manager once said with a tight smile as if shocked that clarity came out of her mouth. In the break room, co-workers fell silent when she walked in, cups clinking nervously against porcelain. She didn't correct them. She'd learned silence was sharper than argument. Yet outside those walls, she gave freely. At the bus stop, she once bought an old veteran coffee when the driver refused him a seat. In the corner store, she paid for a young boy's bread after the cashier sneered at the crumpled bills in his hand. People remembered her for that. Small acts that seemed invisible until they weren't. What no one noticed was the file cabinet in her bedroom, locked and heavy. Inside lay documents most would never see. Police reports, transcripts, and sealed court filings. Sometimes she ran her fingers along the folders, lips pressed tight. On her dresser, beneath a stack of scarves, was something else. A worn leather badge holder, tucked away like a memory too dangerous to display. She never spoke of it. Not yet. That week, something shifted. A white SUV had parked outside her building 3 nights in a row, engine idling. She felt the gaze before she saw it. In the office elevator, 2 men in suits whispered her name before pretending to talk sports. Even at the grocery store, a woman stared at her basket as if its contents told a story. Alicia brushed it off, until the night she heard the click of boots outside her apartment window. And when she pulled back the curtain, 2 officers stood beneath the streetlight, their radios crackling with coded words she couldn't catch. One pointed at her building, the other held a clipboard. The SUV engine purred behind them. Alicia's chest tightened. Something was coming. The next day at work, her manager cornered her in the hallway. "We've received a complaint," he said, voice oily. "Someone claims you falsified your reports." She stared. "That's impossible." But the accusation spread fast. By lunch, whispers swarmed. Fraud, misconduct, criminal. She felt the air shift. This was no mistake. It was a setup. That evening, as she stepped off the bus, a patrol car eased beside her. "Alicia Moore?" The officer's smile was thin. "Need to ask you a few questions." She said nothing, only kept walking. At home, the lock on her door looked tampered. Inside, a drawer had been left open. They were already inside her life. Days later, the betrayal landed. Her neighbor, a woman she once helped with groceries, stood in her doorway with 2 detectives. "I told them what I saw," the neighbor muttered, eyes avoiding hers. "You've been hiding something." Alicia's hands trembled. The detectives asked about stolen files, about missing evidence. She gave no answers. She couldn't, because the truth behind those files was too dangerous and too powerful. Still, the noose tightened. At a community meeting where she once helped organize rides for seniors, someone shouted, "She's a liar! She's not who she says she is." Gasps filled the room. The walls of her life were collapsing, brick by brick. One night, headlights flared through her window. Voices boomed, "Open the door! Police!" She froze, then slipped out the back, cutting through alleys until her lungs burned. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. "We know who you are. Come quietly, or we'll make you." She smashed the phone against a dumpster. For days, she vanished. No office, no meetings, no routine. Just shadows and survival. But whispers grew. She worked for them once. She saw too much. Then came the attack. A Saturday night, quiet streets, her backpack heavy with the only files she still carried. The SUV screeched across the curb, doors flying open. Dogs barked, leashes straining. "Get on the ground!" One officer roared. She raised her hands, voice cracking, "I'm unarmed!" The dog snapped, teeth flashing under streetlights. She stumbled back, hitting the wall. One officer shouted, "She's resisting!" Another yanked the leash forward. She thought of the badge hidden in her dresser, of the oath she once took. And in that moment, as chains rattled and jaws lunged, she shouted words that split the night. "You're attacking a federal agent." The officers froze. One leash slackened. The radios went dead silent. And then, chaos. The dog still barked, but hands faltered. Eyes widened. The tallest officer stammered, "What did you say?" Her voice cut like steel. "I am Special Agent Alicia Moore, DOJ Civil Rights Division." Gasps. Radios crackled, confused. "Control, confirm ID." But no one answered. Alicia's hand dove into her jacket, pulling free the leather badge holder she'd sworn she'd never reveal. The gold shield glinted under the floodlights. Silence fell. For a heartbeat, even the dogs seemed unsure. Then fury exploded. One officer lunged anyway, shoving her against the wall, spitting, "Liar!" Another hissed, "Shut her up before this spreads." Chains rattled. Boots thundered. She fought back, every muscle sharp with memory. Fists slammed. Elbows drove. Her voice roared over them. "Cameras are rolling." And it was true. Tiny red lights blinked from corners of the lot. Hidden recorders, set weeks before, captured every second. Officers hesitated. The trap was theirs now. She snatched one leash, twisted hard. The dog yelped but pulled free. Another officer drew his baton. She met his eyes steady. "You hurt me now, and your careers end tonight." The air burned with sweat, leather, and rage. Seconds stretched, blades of silence between screams. Finally, one officer whispered, "She's telling the truth." The others faltered. Radios buzzed. Orders scrambled. Nobody moved. The chain of command snapped in real time, and Alicia stood there, badge in hand, chest heaving, dogs circling, as the men who hunted her realized they'd just tried to tear apart one of their own. In the distance, sirens wailed closer. Backup was coming, but for whom? The aftermath was ugly, tangled, and raw. The officers were dragged into internal investigations. Their names leaked to the press within weeks. "Excessive force," headlines screamed. "Botched operation." Community protests swelled outside the precinct, candles flickering in paper cups. But for Alicia, the cost lingered deeper. She moved through her apartment like a ghost, the badge now sitting in plain sight on her desk. Friends called, voices trembling with apologies. Some avoided her altogether, ashamed they'd doubted her. The neighbor who betrayed her left flowers at her door without a note. Yet Alicia felt no triumph. She remembered the dog's breath hot on her skin, the look in the officer's eyes when rage eclipsed reason. She thought about how close death had pressed against her throat. At a community gathering weeks later, she stood at the podium. Her voice was steady, though her hands trembled against the wood. "They didn't freeze because I was innocent," she said. "They froze because they realized I had power." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. And that's the problem. Shouldn't innocence be enough? Silence. Some nodded. Some wept. Outside, rain tapped against the church windows, each drop like a reminder. Months later, she walked past the bus stop where she once bought coffee for the veteran. He saluted her, eyes shining. Children whispered her name like a secret. But she kept her head low. She knew battles still waited, bigger than her, bigger than any badge. That night, she placed the badge back in the drawer, closed it, and whispered, "Not yet." Because she understood something brutal. Justice was never given freely. It was wrestled from clenched fists. And the real question was whether the world even wanted it. So, when she looked into the mirror, the reflection staring back asked only one thing. What would have happened if she hadn't been who she was? Stories like this aren't rare. They're everywhere, hidden in plain sight. Have you ever seen someone treated unfairly just because of who they are? Drop your thoughts below. Your words might give strength to someone else.